On this day, April 3rd, actually April 4th, 2025, or actually 2026, it depends, really. Adeline rejected Matthew and said no to Matthew. Matthew, Matthew, he fell. He fell into a horrible depression, and Adeline's friends thought that Matthew should be punished for even attempting to talk to her that day. So they influenced Adeline, which was a susceptible blonde, a dirty blonde, into this horrible plot where they kidnapped Matthew in the middle of the night from his house and transported him to Primm, Nevada, outside of Primm in a cave, which they did. It was horrifying. Poor Matthew, he was sedated in his sleep. Again, even though he was already sleeping, they still decided to tranquilize him with horse meds or whatever, transporting him nearly 4 hours across the California-Nevada border to Primm, which they dragged him through the desert to a cave outside of Primm in the mountains and hills. During the 1 week he was locked up, he faced horrible mistreatment, such as 1 piece of bread per day for his daily rations. If he wanted any more food, which he had to, or else he would die, he had to eat cockroaches. He had to eat rats. He had to jump at the bats in the cave. He had to rip their heads off and open their organs and eat whatever he could eat. It was horrifying. He was diseased. He had ringworm. There was a tapeworm. There were 3 tapeworms in his stomach. It was horrible. Poor Matthew, he was suffering from starvation. You could see all of his bones. It was horrifying. They would put him through horrifying torture methods. They would use an electric chair on him and shock him till he almost died and splashed him with water while he was being shocked. But somehow, they gave him just enough of electrical dosage to almost kill him. They didn't kill him. They electrocuted him almost to death and poured water on him while he was electrified. They also waterboarded him. Not only did they do that, they used a sandpaper grinder, like those grinders that have a sandpaper and that can disintegrate anything. That's the reason Matthew doesn't have a pair of nipples anymore, or skin on his back. They used that sandpaper grinder and grinded his nipples off and almost all of his skin. He had only 12% of the skin he started. His skin was now the smallest organ in his body when we found him. It was horrifying. They also twisted his fingers off. We found his right thumb was turned 180 degrees. It was horrifying. And then they decided to rip the knuckle off. So the top of the thumb was facing forward, but the other half was facing backwards. It was horrifying. It was mortifying. But thankfully, one night while they were sleeping, Matthew used his makeshift cockroach, bat, and rat saw that he crafted out of the bones of rats and bats to saw through the cage and escape out of the cave. Outside the cave, there were 3 packs of coyotes. He had to fight through every single coyote till he killed all 70 coyotes, which there were 3 packs of different coyotes. There were 3 different packs, and he had to kill all 70 of them in total. And the coyotes haven't eaten in 12 days, so the coyotes were pretty vicious. It was absolutely, it must have been so painful for Matthew. He was bit so many times. Bite marks scattered across his body as the coyotes probably absolutely tore and ripped at his skin. And then after that, he was picked up by a flock of 20 vultures. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry. Open sesame. Okay. So after that, he was picked up by 20 vultures, and they start to peck and rip at him. I'm pretty sure he lost his entire femur bone because of that. But thankfully, he was able to use the lower left half of a coyote's jaw to rip the vultures' throats out, basically slicing their throats off so that the vultures would drop Matthew. He fell 300 feet out of the sky. But thankfully, he was able to crawl towards Prim, and we picked him up on the side of the road because the friend group function was at Prim, plotting the escape plan so he could break him out of the cave and save Matthew. As far as we're concerned, we stayed at the Buffalo Bills Hotel, even though it was like abandoned. Same with the Whiskey Pete. And then we left to Las Vegas for 2 days at the Luxor so we could catch a flight back to California before Adeline and her horrible, devious friends shot us to death with a gun. This all happened. This is real. This is brutal. This is absolutely mortifying to watch. I hope you guys have a nice day. This all happened. And remember, friend ends and end. Boyfriend and girlfriend end and end. But I'm a bro that never ends. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. So yeah, Adeline tortured Matthew in a cave in Nevada. Thankfully, we were able to save him, but Matthew, he still has scars. Almost $1 million in hospital bills to save Matthew's life. A 12-hour surgery by the doctors at Prim. We were able to save his life. I don't even know how they got the equipment to save his life, but it was pretty crazy. Goodbye.